Welcome back to the FitBiz Journey podcast. I have a special episode for you because I have Richard Storey today, and I completely butchered his name again, but I do this all the time with all of our guests, so I apologize ahead of time. But he's an amazing guest for us because he's just really serious and good about how and why we should exercise, but on top of that, how we should do it right internally. So Richard, can you please take over and just do like a quick introduction and what we are going to talk about really today, because the industry wise is just so messed up and crooked, I guess.
Yeah. Richard Storey, coach at For You Fitness. Today we're going to be talking about fitness industry misconceptions, or at least a few of the many misconceptions when it comes to exercise and fitness, because I know that there's a lot of people out there who are wanting to make themselves better by strengthening their bodies and becoming healthier versions of themselves. And there's a lot of information on how to do that, and not all of it is good. I would say the majority of the information you as a client or consumer that is going to run into the industry is bad information. And so do your best to protect yourself from that. And that's kind of my goal, I would say, long term, is to protect people from bad information in our industry.
All right, take it away.
And also that the problem is that most of these people who actually ask for help, they go to trainers for help, and most of the time trainers don't even know what they're supposed to do. And lots of times when I go to the gyms to talk to some of the personal trainers, they go on YouTube and write their clients' workout from looking at videos, what a current pro athlete or some other like hotshot personal trainer is doing online. So what do you think about trainers? Well, first we're going to talk about certifications in a minute, but what do you think about trainers just going online and trying to find like basically ideas to work out with their clients? Because obviously that sounds like I don't even know what they're doing because there's not a plan for the client, right?
Yeah. I think getting ideas or inspiration from things, if it's like internet related or something, it's just a tool, but it's how they would apply it to the client that would mean the most. So it's like if they just take something and they throw it at their client without essentially trying to customize that exercise for their client, like knowing their client's abilities, their goals, what they can tolerate and what they can do, essentially everything that they can, then it doesn't make sense if they don't take all those into consideration, because then you'll recognize that a lot of exercises don't fit for most people. Yeah. But I mean, if you have like a really able client, and so you can take any exercise essentially and throw it at them, then yeah, that works. But does it produce the outcome or the result that you're looking for is another, I think, topic in itself.
What do you think? But you have to have like a start with the end in mind, right? I mean, you have to, like, when you start an exercise, you would need to know why you want to do that exercise or what your end goal result with that client, right? So you want to go from A to B somehow, not just throwing exercises to someone, right?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, if you're talking about like exercises that essentially don't have a purpose, but for the client long term, I mean, every exercise has an intended purpose, but depending on how it's applied, it may not actually fit or come up, bring the result that they're looking for. Then that doesn't really make sense. So
then, are you against or with some of those gyms and personal trainers who let their clients just come in? Let's say most of them now, the most common is group classes, group settings, right? Yeah. And what they do is that they let anybody just come in and jump into a class and like, let's beat you down. So what do you think about those things when they're like, and that's why even us, we have it so many times that we tell the clients that, the first time is a consultation, I'm going to do a full body assessment and strength and conditioning test to make sure what you're capable of and if you have any limitations or injuries, and obviously customize something for you instead of like come jumping with the sharks, So like, what do you think about that? Because literally clients who come in, they like get pissed at us that why can't I just train like at any other gym?
Yeah, I think the client is probably in that state of reaction, not thinking, okay, here I need a long-term goal to look at. And so like jumping into a group class, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, if you have like everything else in order and you understand kind of what you're going for long term, and then you could use a group class for like fun. Like I have a client, she was wanting to use a group class to kind of change up her routine a little bit, because she'll find fun in that, and there's interaction with other people, you're doing something, there's camaraderie behind it, that's cool. But essentially it's like, you still want to stick to your main plan. But if you're using a group class as your main plan, that doesn't make sense, because you as an individual taking some kind of stimulus, as we're going to call it, or exercise that wasn't intended for you, it's just intended for a general population, doesn't make sense because it may not react with you well. And most people don't benefit from the stimulus or exercise of group classes long term because they're not suited for them. They're just done for whoever can keep up.
Exactly. So what do you think about measurements and assessments and strength tests, and just to see where your client is currently and I guess following up, how often they should follow up trainers who are listening to this. Should they even keep measurements? Should they even keep like information on how their clients are doing, or they should just beat them down every single time?
Yeah, I think with anything, there's a ton of variables, and like all the things you brought up just now are ways to try to track progress, but because of how things are, with people saying everything's scientifically based, and yet if somebody doesn't do any of that stuff, then they're being the least scientific as possible. Because everybody can claim that their exercise or workouts are scientifically based and they're proven to work, but essentially if you're not treating your clients as a science experiment, as an individual science experiment, tracking as much information as possible during the time that they're with you, then you're not doing science, you're just doing workouts and
hope for the best.
Yeah, hope for the best. So it's just like shooting in the dark, hoping that you hit something, hit your target.
Exactly, and I wanted to bring this up. The reason I wanted to bring this up because there is a couple of pretty successful companies. I won't name them now, but they literally had they're saying to their trainers that we are getting rid of that stupid clipboard and the paperwork. You're just gonna beat down your clients because they're here for the experience and they're gonna get the results as long as you beat them down. And this is how they got rid of the tracking, basically, because they're like, oh, we don't need those clipboards. If you have clipboards, you don't make any money. That was their saying, basically.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
No, I think it's interesting. I know that some people do really hard workouts, but I think people like results more than they like really hard workouts.
Yes.
And so if they recognize that maybe a really hard workout done over and over and over, and even saying that a really hard workout really could mean a bunch of different things, but essentially if they're not tracking the workouts, there's no way to track the progress, or one aspect of progress. And again, you're just kind of rolling the dice on, hopefully hoping for results.
Yeah.
And that seems to be the common thing.
Oh yeah. And tracking is hugely important. Obviously not everybody can hear that, but on top of that, what do you think about people who, and it also helps with, people who quit because they think they're not progressing, just because nothing is really changing, that they don't see, let's say, in their measurements or anything, but even if their strength is changing, or if you measured how much they bench press, squat, whatever, their strength, anything that we do measure, right? If they would do that, then they would be able to say that, all right, well, changes are happening. Obviously, we have to change X, Y, and Z in order to see the rest. But what I was trying to point out is that this will help the clients. How do you say it? Longevity. Right? Yeah, because you can clearly show them we are progressing. Right?
I mean, even determining progression in a strength manner is interesting, because a science experiment, every variable has to be recognized, and you would have to recreate the same technique. So if somebody does a squat, just as an example, they would have to keep a certain tempo, a certain positioning, a certain form throughout that squat as they did it, and then you would have to repeat that over and over as perfect as possible in order to say that, oh, this person's getting stronger with this movement. But it's if you add weight and the person moves any differently, essentially compensating around whatever weaknesses they have, then it's that no longer is a viable way to track their progress. You can't just keep adding weight or something and saying oh, they're getting stronger because you can do more of this, but it's how are they doing it?
Yes, the how is important. And since you mentioned how, and the exercise isn't changing, so what do you say to those trainers who are out there and saying nonstop that you have to change it up and you have to confuse the muscle for your clients?
I mean, essentially the muscles don't know what you're doing, so any variable that you add to an exercise,
including weight, right?
Weight, the time that they're doing that exercise, the intensity or the intention behind the person's movement are all variables that will stimulate the tissue differently. But I would say the majority of people, being the general population, you don't need to worry about that too much in the beginning, because most of them haven't done anything, to that extreme of really doing some kind of intense exercise.
And then not to mention, but most people, when they hear that switch it up, what they do is instead they bring up the Bosu ball or they do these crazy exercises, mixing like squats with I don't know, with kettlebell holds or something.
Yeah.
Like they're doing these crazy things, trying to confuse everyone, not just the muscles.
Yeah.
Speaking of misconceptions in the fitness industry, since you brought it up, let's talk about one of the questions that we get all the time from personal trainers send this us. We have a few of them, and it seems like that this is like the most common, is that the client is just impatient and they want the quick fix.
Yeah.
And the number one on our list is actually all about tummy tuck and liposuction. So how do you feel about that? Is that gonna fix their problem for good?
Yeah, I mean,
as trainers, how do you think we should respond back to these people?
And like ultimately it comes to like the client and they're wanting that like quick result, whatever that is. I think they're looking at the aesthetic aspect of it, which most are, which is fine. But doing a surgery of some kind, I think they need to take into consideration, the extent of that surgery, and then also the damage they're going to be doing to their body in the process, and the fact that even if they do remove fat cells, like with the liposuction or something, they can't remove all of them, so those fat cells will still be there, and they could fall back into the same pattern of essentially gaining fat back in that area right after that surgery.
Well, I mean, if they don't fix their main issues, right? Like, if they're
addressing the symptom.
Exactly. That's right. I was waiting for you going to say that. The addressing the symptom, because obviously if they like keep eating that pizza every single night, or not even that. I mean, most people undereat also, and then once in a while they overeat, and then that's the problem. It's that
they're undereating quality food. It's really easy to eat a lot of calories from small amounts of food that are full of sugar and whatever else.
And if you come back to the same problems, like say we have so many people who did have liposuctions or had tummy tucks and stuff like that, and then all of a sudden they gained back all of it, like they got rid of 30 pounds and now they have 60 pounds over. So it's like I always say that is having a surgery in fitness is like taking out a loan for a failing business, is because if you don't fix the problems first, which is if your business is not profitable, then there is no point taking out a loan because it's just not going to fix your problems. And I feel like same in the surgery, that temporary you will feel awesome and look awesome. Well, I won't say look awesome because surgery can't really fix all those things. Yeah. But you would feel cool that, all right, my clothes are fitting, until you screw it up again, unless somehow we come up with a solution. How we should respond back to clients who don't have the patience and they just want it now. Like, how can we tell them that, fitness is not a quick fix, it's a lifestyle? Yeah, and
it's difficult, looking at some of this stuff, because I recognize that, if somebody's in this situation, how desperate they are to achieve something. As essentially the person's targeting their health and their, well-being, and they're starting externally. But a lot of this needs to start internally. But the difficult thing about me saying that is I recognize even from, is that I've always been fit. And it's hard sometimes to relate with people who have not been in that situation. And so even them, they could say to us, like, you guys don't understand because you've never been there, and they're 100% right. Part of what, it even puts me in this or you in this is that, this is part of, you're a level of obsessed with it for whatever reason, and I think, getting people to understand and hopefully be able to see like the bigger picture of, it's so funny. That is it's not sexy to say. It's a slow process. It's going to be hard and there's going to be ups and downs, but ultimately you'll be working towards a greater good for yourself.
What you just said, you mean to interrupt you, but it's 100% how you should describe also creating and starting a company. Yeah. Because that's exactly what you just said too. Everybody thinks it's an overnight success. You're going to make tons of money and you're going to make millions of dollars, and yet only 4% of any businesses make $1 million. Yeah. And yet everybody thinks that they're going to have that. Same in the fitness. Everybody thinks they're going to have six packs, right? Yeah. Yeah, it's just not the case. I mean, there's just so much in the fitness misconceptions that we just need to create probably another episode for you guys, because we have tons of questions also coming in, and we really need to talk about certifications that we haven't talked about, adding in more workouts to fix your problems, which trainers do all the time and clients believe it works, and a few other things that we're going to bring up next time. So let's just wrap this up today, and please send in more questions. And then we're going to create another episode about this, just because I think we can go really deep into it, and I think all the trainers and gym owners need some help with this. So I would really appreciate if you would share this, send in some information. You can rate our episode or podcast, Please subscribe to the channel. We really, really appreciate it. And just send in the questions, right? All right, thank you very much, guys.